Peace and blessings be upon you. This is Abdul Malik Ryan from the Division of Mission and Ministry. On behalf of DM&M and the Interfaith Scholars, we want to welcome you all to Winterfaith, a quarterly interreligious conversation. One of the things we like to do in the Interfaith Scholars is to really encourage healthy, constructive, positive, interreligious and interfaith dialogue. And one of the things we like to remind people is that interfaith and interreligious dialogue is going on all around us, and we're part of it on a daily basis, even if we don't always think of it in those terms.
Shalom. I'm Matt Charnay, the DePaul Jewish Life and Interfaith Outreach Coordinator. Welcome to the quarterly interreligious conversation. Today we're talking about what is interfaith. All of the interfaith scholars at DePaul have their own ideas and examples of what interfaith means to them. But here at DePaul, we have a very specific way of looking at interfaith. When we talk about 4 ways of interfaith dialogue here at DePaul, those are 4 different ways that you can connect with the idea of interfaith. The first one is the dialogue of action, in which people of spiritual commitment and faith collaborate with others to build a just society. That means doing service work and generally helping out others that is not yourself. The second is the dialogue of religious experience, in which people steeped in their own spiritual traditions share their ways of searching for God or the absolute, including prayers, worship, celebration. So anytime you go to a religious event that's not your own, you're doing interfaith work. The next is dialogue of theological exchange, in which specialists, scholars, or even just lay people seek to deepen their knowledge and understand their spiritual heritage by just discussing it with someone else. So if you're discussing God or spirituality or nature and you're not talking into a mirror, you're doing interfaith work. And the very last way is the dialogue of life, in which people of different faiths and spiritual traditions strive to live in an open and neighborly spirit. Every day, we live the dialogue of interfaith life. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful time.
When I think of the word interfaith, I think of the word religion. And the reason for that is etymologically, religion means a reconnection. And I've been told that reconnection is meant to be a reconnection with God. But to some extent, I feel like that can also apply in terms of community. It can be a reconnection to other people.
Interfaith to me is the ability to learn.
To me, interfaith is living, sharing, experiencing, and going through different cultures.
What separates interfaith from just a normal discussion with a friend or peer of a different faith is that in our discussions, we truly try to understand one another and get inside their head in terms of understanding where they're coming from.
When I think about what interfaith means to me, I think about all of the interactions that I have with my friends and my peers about faith or religious traditions.
Interfaith to me, and being a part of this interfaith work at DePaul, I see as being a part of this healing process and of honoring the courage of those that have come before us to advocate for the importance of this work when potentially they were risking their lives to do so.
It's truly respectful and open place where everybody feels comfortable to share exactly what's on their mind. We know that everybody's going to be there to support us no matter what.
It allows me to cross over religious boundaries to be able to not only coexist, but to actually engage in dialogue with individuals regardless of what our different beliefs are.
The purpose of interfaith isn't for you to convince other religions that it's right, that your religion's the one. It's not to pull people over to your side. That's not what it's about. It's establishing a foundation for coexistence. That's what it is.
I always sort of think of interfaith work as collaboration and dialogue. And it's a special kind of collaboration because it requires special patience with oneself and with others as you are sharing your perspective, and that perspective is being stretched or challenged in a lot of different ways.
But being an interfaith leader for me has been an entirely different experience. It's brought me to an awareness of how interfaith operates outside of my personal experience. It has prepared me for situations in which there might be possible conflicts between people, but so far I've only been able to help create positive spaces in order to bring people together that orient around religion differently.
In these conversations, we're able to speak from our own faith perspectives and still come to a consensus about whatever we might be talking about.
One religion's great for reconnecting with people in the sense of a community. But imagine understanding other religions, understanding other communities. That's more connections you can make to people.
So sometimes going on a trip, to me that's interfaith, visiting a different culture, a different country, and learning about that religion in that setting. So it's not limited to just talking to people about their own religion, but it can also be experienced by yourself when you go on a trip to a different place, a different culture, and just immersing yourself in the entire religious experience that others have on a daily basis.
And I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to just meet and collaborate with fellow students, and to not feel that my life is at risk in doing so, but I still do, of course, recognize and hope to honor with this work the people for whom that's not the case.
But interfaith to me is not solely conversations about faith. It's both the ability and the passion to change the world through a faith-based lens.
It could be interfaith that you cook some Middle Eastern food or some Mediterranean food or some Indian food. And as you learn about different cuisines, you get an insight into the culture, and inquiring a step beyond that and learning that it's because of the religion and what it says and teaches you about the religion, the eating customs, the food customs. That's a form of interfaith to me, and it's the way I love to explore different cultures.
A lot of times people just assume that interfaith is any conversation with different religions present.
Interfaith is not just accepting those from any variety of faith traditions, but about using the interfaith connection to do something else. Honestly, interfaith isn't even always about faith, but about finding a way to connect with people who are different from you and achieve a common goal.
I think the ultimate end goal of interfaith is not just to coexist. I've always been taught from others, and my own personal belief is that coexisting is tolerance, and tolerance is just this indifference or acknowledgement that another group that's different from ourselves exists. And I don't think that interfaith should be about tolerance or coexisting. I think interfaith needs to be about the relationship, the connection that comes when you're curious, when you ask questions, and when you go out and say, we're different, but I love you. And tolerance is not that. Tolerance is, they're different, and we're just going to acknowledge they exist. We're not going to pick a fight, which is fine, which is great, and it is what is needed a lot in the world. But the goal shouldn't be that. The goal should be to go beyond that and to love everyone, regardless of where they're from or what they believe, and to appreciate and to question because you are curious, and to question because you want to understand. And ultimately, when you understand others, you can love them.
And vibing, all right? We can all vibe together, all right? But you can't do that unless you understand each other. That's what it means to me.